Today is a super exciting day for me because today we have our first guest on Accidentally Awesome. So I won't introduce her right now. I will flick over to the video when we have a chat about everything ADHD and you can find out who our guest is then. Good morning, Tina. Welcome to Accidentally Awesome. How are you today? Can you hear me?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
We've got a bit of a lag here today, I think. So thank you. You are my first guest. I'm absolutely thrilled.
Oh, I'm so excited to be the first one.
So I'll introduce you to everybody that's watching. This is Tina, and she's from the Diverse Accountants and ADHD Money, and I'll link them below if you want to go in and have a look at them. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your businesses.
Yes, sure. So I live with my husband. I have two primary school age children, and I've got two cats and a dog. So we're big animal lovers in this family.
Same here, yeah.
And I'm also a qualified accountant. So so as you said, I do have the two businesses. So I've got ADHD Money, which is all about helping adults with ADHD, with their finances, with their money, just trying to manage it better. You know, as ADHDers, we tend to spend a lot of money impulsively and overspend. So I try to help people with that and just to generally, you know, help them budget and things like that.
Yeah, because it can be a real issue, the impulse buys and not watching your finances, not paying bills. You've got a course to help people out with that for your business.
Yeah, that's right. So I've got that starting in the next few days, and it's called ADHD Cashed Up. And it's all about trying to move people from that place of impulse spending and overspending and not knowing how to manage their money. And I move them through those stages of overcoming that impulsive spending and helping them budget the ADHD way, because there's a lot of things when it comes to budgeting and finance that is very typical that may not suit an ADHD brain. So I teach people how to budget better for their brain. And then just sort of move them through that process. And then by the end of it, you know, they're not overspending and impulsively spending, and they're managing their money better. And not only that, but they're feeling good about managing their money. So I get a lot of feedback from people who, you know, don't even know how to manage their money because it makes them so anxious and things like that. Yes. So this program's all about moving them from, you know, not knowing how to do that to actually finding it a little bit fun and wanting to do it.
Yeah, well, that sounds fantastic.
ADHD.
Yeah, I know ADHD affects you in such strange ways, and one of them can be money and the stress involved with that. Even if you've got the money to pay bills, it's the physical act of sitting there and doing it. It can be just mind-blowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So when did you first get diagnosed with ADHD? Were you young? Were you a teenager, or has it been a bit later for you?
Yeah, I was diagnosed later in life. So I was only actually properly diagnosed about just over a year ago. So I feel like, though, that I haven't only just been diagnosed just over a year ago, because obviously I've spent my whole life with this.
Exactly.
I just haven't known it. So, you know, as a lot of late diagnosis, a lot of people who were diagnosed later in life, you know, we've learned how to cope with things, and we've got all these different strategies. So it kind of feels like, well, I've always dealt with this in some way. So I guess, you know, that late diagnosis is really just like a bit of a confirmation,
like a stamp,
I guess.
Isn't it? It's like a stamp of approval for the things you know haven't been right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What prompted you to go for a diagnosis?
It was actually my son. So there's a big backstory with him, but basically I didn't even ever suspect ADHD with him. I just thought he was a little bit anxious because I've dealt with anxiety, as a lot of us have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I saw the signs very, very quickly, and it took me a little while to sort of start getting help for him, but it was the school that actually suggested to take him to a pediatrician and just get him properly checked out for, different things. And he got diagnosed with anxiety, but also with ADHD and autism.
Right.
And it blindsided me a little bit because I didn't know a whole lot. Funnily enough, I didn't know a whole lot about ADHD. So I was like, what is this? In my head, I had that image that I'm sure we all used to, back in the 90s, of that really hyperactive boy, usually in class.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not my son. I'm like, what is this? So I just went into this rabbit hole back. I obviously now hyper-focused on it. That's how I see it. It consumed me for months. And then it got to the point where I switched my focus to adults with ADHD, because I was like, well, I'm learning all about ADHD in general. And then I started to see things about adults with ADHD. And that just blew my mind again, because I was like, well, I didn't even know that adults had this. So I started sort of reading about that. And
the findings were it was a childhood illness that we would grow out of.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you.
Yeah.
I was only diagnosed last month. I'm going to be 50 this year. And like you, I found out because my kids were diagnosed. So my son's like your son, autism and ADD. My daughter is ADHD combined, and I'm combined as well. So, and I was the same as you. I started looking at girls with ADHD, which led me to looking at women with ADHD. And it blew my mind. And when I thought, I have that too. And then I got really angry because I thought, I've spent all this money on therapy and not one person has picked up on this. So how did you feel when you realized you had it? Were you angry too, or were you just like, oh, okay?
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest. I was angry that nobody had ever picked up on it. I'd only in the past had only at that point seen only one psychologist, and that's the person who diagnosed me with anxiety, probably postnatal anxiety. So there was a bit of like, why wasn't this picked up then? But as I sort of came to realize that a lot of professionals don't even know a whole lot about ADHD. Like, it's such an emerging area, especially in adults. So that kind of made me realize that, well, perhaps the information just wasn't there for her, which is fine. She obviously helped me a lot with my anxiety, so I'm really grateful for that. I did have some anger that it was never picked up, but once I had actually got diagnosed, it was just such a relief, because I had decided I had ADHD even before I went to get diagnosed. Because
I was the same.
Yeah, I had just read and listened to podcasts and YouTube videos so extensively. I was like, this has to be me. Otherwise, what? I don't even know what. This has to be me, because I can relate to basically everything that I'm reading. For me, mostly it was just a whole lot of relief and a little bit sad. I did grieve, my childhood and my 20s, because, how would life have been different if I had known, or if it had been picked up earlier? So I did go through that grieving process, which, I've come to know that that's so normal for everybody to go through that is diagnosed later in life.
Yes. And I think, you do have that feeling, what about little Lorna? What about little Tina? What could we have been? But you know what? Look at us. And we're doing so well, and we have thrived. And I just feel that that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this channel, because I think if we've managed before this, and now we know we have this, then things can only get even better. So, that was one of the other things I was going to ask you. We do get a lot of negatives associated with ADHD, and, the behavior can be the brunt of a lot of jokes, which is fine. You're better to laugh at yourself. But what sort of good things do you think ADHD has brought you?
Quite a bit, to be honest. You know, I've met so many people and I've spoken to so many people and connected with so many people, and it's brought me opportunities like this to be able to, you know, speak out and educate people, not only people that don't have ADHD, but other adults, especially other adult women who think that this might be them. Being able to bring this education to them so, you know, they can take the appropriate steps to go get assessed if they feel they need to. Not everybody does, and that's completely fine.
I have two friends now. One got assessed last week because I encouraged her, and one has just booked an appointment. So I think it's so good to be able to do that. And of course, your business is focusing on ADHD as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so thankful for that, to be able to bring something to the ADHD space that's really, really needed. So it's just, you know, not only, I guess, better for me personally with my personal life, but just, getting these opportunities to spread the word and help other adults with ADHD is just, it's what I'm here to do. I just absolutely love it.
So before you realized that you had ADHD, were you just doing normal accounting?
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me. Before you realized you had ADHD, was your business just a normal accounting business?
Yeah, so I didn't have my own business before I got diagnosed with ADHD. So I was just working for other people, which as much as I, you know, enjoyed it at the time, I just knew that it just wasn't the right thing for me. And for years and years, I'm like, I know that I need to go out on my own and do this on my own, but I was just so scared. And I just didn't know how I'd handle that. And I'm actually really glad that I didn't before I got diagnosed, because I don't know if I would have been able to get through all the hard bits that comes with business. I've had other small businesses, you know, in my 20s and stuff. And same thing, they didn't last because when it got really hard and, you know, I was trying to follow a lot of, you know, neurotypical business advice that just didn't suit my brain. I didn't know what to do. I just would, you know, shut down, and I'm like, I'm just not cut out for this.
Yes.
So I'm glad that starting the accounting business has come after my diagnosis, because now I'm in such a better place to know how to structure that business for my brain. And I know the type of clients that I want to work with as well. You know, I don't just want to work with absolutely anyone and everyone. Obviously, I can help a lot of different people. They don't have to be neurodivergent business owners, but to be able to have a space for, you know, business owners with ADHD or autism or something is, you know, it feels so incredible to be able to, you know, have this accounting and business space for them.
Yeah, it's like having a tribe of people together that talk the same language.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I had somebody come to me not long ago, and they said straight up, they're like, I need to be followed up a lot because I'll forget to email you, and it's not that I don't want to, I just forget because I have ADHD. And I'm like, I totally understand, that's completely fine.
And I think we can give each other a bit more grace, can't we? Because we know that's not deliberate, it's just our minds.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So what are some of your favorite ADHD hacks? Because I like you said,
one of my favorite is probably,
sorry, we've been ADHD all our lives, but you've only
no, you go,
and I've, you know, only known officially for a month. So we've built up these things and maybe not realized what they are.
Yeah. Actually, this is one that I've only just discovered since I had ADHD, but it is still one of my favorite hacks. And that's timers, because I could never figure out why I sucked with time. I always had to know what time it was, because I just couldn't figure out how long I had taken to do something. I couldn't figure out, you know, how long I had been doing something or how long it takes to do something. And it always played on my mind, like, why can't I understand time? And once I read more about ADHD, I'm like, okay, this is why. So using timers is really, really effective, and it's absolutely one of my favorite hacks. So if I'm really struggling with something, you know, if it's work-wise or even household tasks. I'll just put a timer on, give myself half an hour or whatever I think, and just use that timer. And I'll use it with the kids as well, like for brushing their teeth. I'll put a 2-minute timer on for them, because same thing, like they'll brush their teeth and they'll brush them for 15 seconds thinking that they've brushed them for, a few minutes.
Exactly.
But one of my hacks that I've had for probably since I was a teenager or early 20s is just background music or background noise.
Yeah.
So it used to, I used to, when I studied at uni, because I knew my husband back then, he was always so weirded out that I would study to a TV show. So I put a TV show in the background that I've watched a million times, so I don't need to focus on it. But it just helped me focus on my study and retain that information, because I was trying to block out music or a TV show or something like that. And not only that, I'll put on a podcast if I need to do housework, just to get me going.
I do that
doing that
as
in
well.
silence.
Yeah, I'm definitely like that with housework. I have to have my podcast on and get moving. And I recently found out about body doubling, because this is something my daughter needs. And I think that's part of body doubling, is having either some noise or somebody else there. And I think that's what it is. It's like, it's blocking out noise as well, but it's also keeping you company.
100%. I'd agree with that. But even like traditional body doubling as well, like not necessarily just a TV show, but just getting on a Zoom call with somebody or whatever it may be, can be really helpful. Luckily, my husband works at home and we share an office. So
do we.
Often if I need that body double, I'll just, make sure I'm in the office with him.
And it's not too distracting?
Sometimes it can be, because he's on the phone a lot. So in those times, I'll like listen to I'll have him there, but I'll put on like a focus playlist on Spotify or something, so I can see him, but I just can't hear him, which does help.
And have you made up your own playlists, or is it just something random that you have?
It's actually I can't remember what it's called. It's an ADHD specific focused not podcast, sorry, just a playlist.
Right. Okay.
I just found it one day when I was just searching through it. And there's different ones on there, but this particular one, and if anyone's interested, you can go to my, it's really amazing. If anyone's interested, you can go to my Instagram, and I've got a little highlight.
I'll link to it in the notes as
because
well.
It's magical. I will put that on, and it's almost instantly that my brain will be able to focus. So it must just be the right sort of beats and.
Yeah, it must be. It must be.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
As far as coping with your ADHD as well as your hacks, do you take medication? It's a personal question, and please, you don't always have to answer.
Currently. No, that's okay. I don't mind.
Sorry, you don't currently?
No, that's okay. I don't mind. I have trialed 2 different medications that haven't worked for me. One of them acted like a sleeping tablet for me. It just sent me into like 3-hour naps every day, which obviously isn't good, for
Not
work
really.
and kids and stuff. No. And the other one just made me really, really irritable. So both of them were kind of like different ends of the spectrum, I feel, that just didn't work. So I'm kind of in 2 minds. There is another one I could trial, but I'm like, well, I know that if I do things outside of medication, I know that I can manage my ADHD. So I'm in 2 minds whether I try another one or not, because I feel like I'm getting to that point as well in my life that I don't particularly want to take medication for the rest of my life. So I don't know. I'll see how I go.
I was the opposite way, that I felt I had to, because I'd ground to a standstill. So the medication that I've got, it's really made a massive difference to me. But it took me a long time to think about whether I would take medication or not when I knew my diagnosis was coming up. And I just thought, well, I've tried everything else, so I'll give it a go. But it's not worked for my daughter. we've not found anything yet that works for her. She had one to start with, and it actually made her quite aggressive, which she's not. And then the next one that we tried, which is what I take, she says it makes her brain feel scribbly. So she's not on anything at the moment either. And it's hard dealing with a little one that's, you know, she's obviously not happy with things, but we've not found anything that works for her yet. So I can understand why you wouldn't want to take it if it doesn't make you feel good.
Yep, 100%.
So do you find things like
it's
exercise?
One of those things, I think, if, you know, anyone's...
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, it's, you know, it's just one of those things that I guess people, you know, they need to just figure it out on their own, because I think a lot of people try to ask other people with ADHD, like, you know, what do you take? Maybe I could take the same thing, you know, if that person takes medication, then maybe so should I. But it's such a personal thing when it comes to medication. So it's just something that you need to talk with your healthcare provider about and just see if it works for you. And some people don't even want to try it. So, you know, those people shouldn't be pushed into it either. So
no, well, she flat out refuses to take it. So I'm like, that's absolutely fine. If you want to try something else, then that's okay. So what do you think helps you out with it? I mean, for me, I have my morning walks with the dog. I find that really helps me get into a good frame of mind. And I know for my daughter, exercise is a massive part of things for her. What sort of things help you?
Definitely exercise as well. You know, getting out in the morning, I walk my dog most mornings as well. And I just find that really helps. Other exercise that I love to do is the high intensity exercise that just really gets my body moving and sweating. When I went to that first psychologist to get assessed for anxiety, she actually told me to stop doing that kind of exercise and do more yoga stuff. But I was like, that was one of the things that confused me as well, because I was like, the high intensity exercise actually really puts me into that, you know, I guess state that yoga would, except yoga to me has the opposite effect. Like yoga isn't moving enough for me. So then by the time I've finished yoga, I'm like, okay, I want to go do more. Whereas the high intensity stuff really relaxes my body and brain. So it was completely different to the advice that I was getting from her, which was also really confusing. But that's really, as I've read, that's actually quite consistent with ADHD. Having that high intensity exercise really help an ADHD brain. And the other thing for me, which has been massive, is what was I going to say? Changing my work. So now working for myself. Because I get to work with my energy levels, and I get to work at whatever time I feel like. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'm ready to go do some work, so I'll go do it. Other mornings I don't even want to look at work, so I'll go, you know, walk my dog or have a coffee or something. And just being able to have that freedom has been life-changing for my brain.
I think a lot of us are like that the way our brain works, we do need to have that freedom. Yesterday I was awake at like 3 a.m, which was just ridiculous. Couldn't get back to sleep, so I came downstairs and did some work for my Etsy shop. And by the time everybody was up, I'd done half a day's work, and I was just quite happy about it. So well, I find journaling helps me. I could not do this before I had ADHD. I had notebooks out the wazoo, but now that I'm medicated, I'm actually able to use my journal. Do you do anything like that at all, or do you find it hard to do?
I actually really enjoy journaling as well. And even though I do a lot of stuff around money, I also do a lot of stuff around mindset as well, because I wholeheartedly believe that mindset will help us in anything, whether that's something money related, personal life related, business related. So I do a lot of work around that, and I encourage people to do journaling, whether that's writing journaling. I prefer to write. But I know some people don't like to write or they find writing hard. So I encourage them to do, you know, like voice journaling or something, which is something really good as well. Just getting that information out of their brain, because that's what it is. It's getting all that information that we just have turning and turning in there, getting it out onto paper. So then it's not stuck up there. It's on paper. You can see it.
Exactly.
And then you can let it go or do something about it, whatever it is. So I absolutely love journaling.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that I enjoy as well. It's and like I say, I've tried to do it so many times, but without realizing the ADHD mind, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do it. So I'm glad that I've been able to get into it more and actually do it. And one of the things I've been doing is actually making more planners that I hope other people with ADHD can use. You know, just I find things like just going to the doctors with the kids can be overwhelming at times. You know, you've got all this information coming in, or going and seeing a specialist for yourself can be hard. And, you know, just remembering what you're doing daily and taking your meds, if you're taking them, drinking water, eating, silly things like that, because when you become hyper fixated, you're in that rabbit hole. You're like, did I eat anything today? When did I last get up?
Yeah, that's right. I came down before to set up for this, and I'm like, gosh, my mouth feels like dry. I haven't had any water. And I'm like, I took water upstairs before, and then I went to the kitchen. I found my glass sitting there completely empty. I'd obviously gone to go get some to take it up to the office, and then completely forgotten. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I know. That's one of the funny things, isn't it? You think you've done something, and then you're like, where is it? And it's in a completely random part of the house. I know, my kids are as bad. The fun of living with kids with ADHD.
I know.
So does your daughter have ADHD as well, or?
Yeah, we've just gotten her assessed. So she has ADHD as well. And I highly suspected that. The way she is, she's so hyperactive. I think she's combined. We didn't actually get a definite sort of presentation from the pediatrician, but I think she's combined, because she's not only that inattentive, but she's so hyperactive. Like even just watching her sit down, well, she's not even sitting down on the couch watching TV or something. She's just constantly moving, like handstands on the couch, and you know, jumping off the couch, and I keep having to tell her stop jumping on the couch. It's just constant. She is go.
Isn't it? So I had a meeting with my daughter's teacher this week to try and help her at school, and one of the things I suggested was that she got a standing desk, or the opportunity to stand while she works, so she can just wiggle about. And you know, that's the same for us. I'm considering getting part of this as a standing desk. I went down the treadmill desk rabbit hole this week as well. Which I'm still not sure about. I can't see myself walking while I'm trying to do some work, but the appeal was there. You know, it's just
I can see that appeal too. I think I'd like one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And what I found was they actually sell them at Bunnings. I was like, when did Bunnings start to do treadmills? Yeah. And like the ones that are for under a desk as well. You're writing that down, aren't you? Look up Bunnings.
I am. I have to check this out. I have a desk that I can put between sitting and standing. So I've got that, but I have recently seen somebody on Instagram has a treadmill desk. I didn't even know they existed. This is amazing. I think I could really get into that.
I think we're just going to have the whole community on treadmill desks after this video. They'll be like, Bunnings, treadmill desk. So with the channel being called Accidentally Awesome, what do you think your awesomeness with ADHD is? With me, it's creativity, and I'd said on my previous video that I'm quite fearless about starting things. Where do you think your awesomeness comes in?
I think mine is definitely being able to think outside the box, but also that creativity of starting stuff. So you know, starting my first Instagram account, and then starting a business related to that, and then starting my other business and YouTube and podcasts. And I just absolutely love being creative in that way, being able to start things. And I can see, like, I have visions for my businesses that I just feel that's where my awesomeness is. Like, I can sort of think about that, the big scheme of things. And just being able to take those opportunities and run with them. I think
and not be
probably
afraid.
One of my favorite things of my ADHD.
And I think I see that in a lot of people with ADHD. They have that fearlessness as well, and it's maybe because we don't think too far into the future, and we're not like, but what if it fails? Because we've not got to that point yet.
What did I read? I read something the other day or yesterday, and gosh, there was people out there who they don't even think about what they want to start failing. They're just like, oh, I'm just going to start this and just see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. Who cares? And that's definitely me. I guess I'm a bit of a risk taker in that way. I'm like, well, give it a go. If it doesn't work out, then just change it, move on,
what's the worst
whatever
can happen?
I
moved to the other side of the world. What's the worst that can happen? I have to go back to Scotland. I think that is one of the really good things about ADHD. We can just get out there and do that and not worry about it too much. So I guess my last question, because we're coming up to the end of 100%. Our time, is there anything that you would like to say to the other people watching this?
Oh gosh,
That's
many
a hard
things.
question.
And it is, because I'm like, who will be watching this? Are you, do you have ADHD? Maybe you think you have ADHD, but something that I talk to a lot of people about is just learn about yourself and be okay with who you are. So learn about how your ADHD presents and work with that. Like, if you've been diagnosed later in life, you've probably spent most of your life, having a lot of pushback from other people and masking and all this stuff. And it's just time that you just let that go and just, work with your brain, whether that means you have to change your job, look into that, or whatever it means for you. Just be okay with that and learn about who you are.
I think that's great advice for all of us. If you can be happy in your own skin, then you're always going to be moving forward and being happy. Well, I think that's our time just about up, Tina. I am absolutely thrilled to have had you here. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'll say goodbye to you today and say have an accidentally awesome day. I'm trying to make this into some sort of tagline, which sounds terrible. And I look forward to speaking to you again at some point.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Tina. I found it really good, especially some of her hacks that she had about listening to music as a background noise and setting timers. I hope that they help you. If you've enjoyed this video, remember, do a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe to the video to make sure that you get the rest of them, because I've got some other really cool people lined up. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.